inviting me. And I'm gonna I'm not sure of your level of knowledge about IFHE and World Home Economics Day. So down here in Georgia, where it's about 70 degrees, I don't know what it is up there. What I'm going to talk about is a little bit about IFHE and then a little more about Home Economics Day. And as I figure out how to share in a second, there we go.
So Pamela, I just want you to know it's high 50s here in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, that's lovely.
Not bad.
Not bad at all.
We've had a very tough winter.
Well, and as you can tell, I'm actually not a, okay, I need to move. Can you see the little pictures over here? Let's move those. So what are you seeing on your screen? I'm not sure which of my screens is shared. Are you seeing just
currently,
National Federation?
Yeah, it's currently your PowerPoint presenter mode.
Okay, so it's sharing the wrong screen. So it's not the other one. Okay, when you have two screens, it's always trying to figure out.
Yes, yes.
Okay, let's try screen one.
There you go.
That's it. Thank you.
And you just see the PowerPoint, not my little cheat sheet.
Correct.
Okay, great. Okay. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm not actually born and raised in the South. I've been down here at the University of Georgia for this is my 17th year. And what I do is, Kimberly said, I'm an extension specialist. So I work in the outreach arm. And a lot of you I know are teachers, but you also come from a variety of backgrounds, I'm sure, just like our GAFCS members are not all teachers. They're not all extension. It's kind of a mix of people, which I would assume you're the same.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Yes.
As I go through things, I am happy for you to interrupt, ask questions, go along things. But what I thought I'd do is just kind of talk a little bit about IFHE in general. And I'm actually the chairperson for the Program Committee on Housing, Technology, and Sustainability. So if you want to know about that, you can ask me later. It's a fun committee. And I'll mention that in a second. So most of you know some about IFHE, I'm assuming. You know, it is our international profession for the profession of home economics. It's a wonderful group of people to work with. I actually know more about surprisingly, the international group than I do the US group, because my first introduction to them really was in Australia at one of the World Congresses. So I know that international, and that's when I first met Gwendolyn, our president now. So what they do is bring all the people around, as you know, and talking about home economics as keys for transforming things and as sustainability. And one of the wonderful things I always think about home economics is that we bring together people with all kinds of backgrounds. I'm actually not a housing background. I'm actually a consumer economics financial background, but I do housing research now. We have foods people, nutrition people. As you all know, we're a wonderful multitude of different disciplines who do research, some do practice out in the field, some like me are out in outreach, advocacy. So it's a great organization. IFHE is just the way to escalate it up to that international level and to partner with your people in other countries. It is a great way to get international experience. If you need some international experience for those dossiers and things that you're promoting, they have lots of opportunities. Committees like the one I have that I'm on, there's other committees. We focus, as you know, on responsible use of household resources, sustainable future, equality, gender equality. And one of the most, I think it's one of the key things that IFHE does is that they have a seat at the table with the UN, which I think is quite impressive, actually. So they actually have input on things going on in the United Nations. One of the biggest things, and I'm going to guess you know all these sustainability development goals. You may not have memorized them all. I haven't either. I have to look at them. But we actually have positions that we've taken on different issues, and there's 6 of them that were woven into World Congress this year as well. The no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, gender equality, clean water, sanitation, and responsible consumption. So there's actually position papers written on those issues. And those are issues that are woven into home economics as you think about all the things that we do. And I actually do have an undergraduate degree in home economics, but I was clothing back then. So I've gone from clothing to consumers to housing. I didn't ever go into foods, and that's a good thing for all the food people because I'd be kind of bad in that area. But it's amazing what you learn. And now I do lots of healthy housing kinds of things, which is not what I did. So as we learn, we just keep, you grow through your career, you just keep changing and adapting. And like I said, IFHE is a great way to get involved. But the conference, which of course is here in Georgia, which I can't say that Georgia is wonderful in September, but we have air conditioning. So, and I believe the hotel is connected to some of the food sources with, tunnels and places you don't have to go outside. Georgia's a little toasty in September, but we've got some great things planned. And I believe, I'm hearing it's going to be hybrid, probably. And I'm hearing numbers of about 400 in person and 400 probably virtually. And I know there's issues with people coming from other countries, the ability to get a visa, lots of things like that have gone on. But it should be a great conference. I'm on the exhibitor committee and fundraising committee for that as well. And we're always open to new people if you want to volunteer to find people to exhibit and do virtual exhibits or in-person ones. So it's coming together with the Learning to Move. I'm coordinating one on a sustainable community just outside of Atlanta. So there's lots of interesting things going on. And like I said, the working committees, professional committees, we used to do a lot with, what's it called? Clean cook stoves, because in some countries people are cooking inside their home. And there's actually a whole alliance about clean burning and how to cook on a little kind of coal type or propane type of cook stove. But today you're interested in World Home Economics Day. And I'm glad, Kimberly, that you shared the information about the upcoming thing on the 19th, right? All the dates are getting confused because none of them are on the same day. So I'm working with some of my colleagues in housing. I'm part of the Housing Economic Research Group, which is a professional association. And I brought a couple people together and we're doing some webinars that we will post hopefully early next week. So those will be on that same website, the YouTube channel for IFHE. One of them has been filmed. It's just waiting for me to edit it. And it's on resiliency, homelessness, and housing insecure families. And my colleagues in Connecticut have had some funding from the Extension Disaster Network. And they've created some programs reaching out for homeless in the times of natural disasters. And so they're sharing some of the information and things that they have done. The other one is by a colleague in Tennessee and one in Florida, who are going to talk a bit more about sustainable, just general sustainability, housing, consumer choice. And that one we're actually we're filming it, video, webinar, recording, whatever you want to call it, on Friday. So those should be up early next week. So that gives you even more resources and information as you plan for what you want to do in your own classroom or whatever your room is. It's a great, I think of World Home Economics Day as a great way to engage your students in planning and looking at resiliency. And this is my favorite topic that they've had, is building resilient homes and families, because as I said, I'm a healthy homes person. So I love everything about health and indoor environment and rebuilding healthy homes and resiliency. And it's a UN initiative as well. They're talking about how do we build resiliency within disaster areas. So I'm going to go through a series of different slides to kind of get you thinking, and please ask questions if you'd like. But one of the biggest things for resiliency, when I think of resiliency, I don't think of just natural disasters. I think of it in a much broader term. So anything that hits you, it could be planning. The easiest one is a natural disaster, having your emergency kit, having a plan for where your family meets. But what other kinds of disasters are there? There's things like someone dies in your family. Do you have a retirement plan? Do you have estate planning? Do you have wills in place? Planning is a much bigger thing, and resiliency within those families and those homes is much broader. Look at this most recent thing we went through. No presentation these days can ever go without chatting about COVID. It seems like it's like the topic of conversation for everyone. But what it taught us, what I think it did, is made us more aware of what was going on in our homes, because we're all stuck at home. We learned about those relationships and those little glitches in those relationships with our family, or the fact that we didn't have a family with us. We were all alone. I chatted with my cats quite often. And when I lost my cat, I had to get another one because I was chatting with myself. So, your mental well-being. But it was easier for me to recover through COVID because I've lived alone. So I was used to it. I wasn't, it wasn't hard to be alone. But other people had really difficult times. We saw the mental health issues and the importance to be aware of what was going around you. And that a disaster and resiliency isn't just a natural disaster. Sometimes it's a public health disaster. And this one brought up all kinds of stuff. We now chat more about mental health in everything. Probably you've woven it into your teaching, just like it's woven into our healthcare plans and our universities and probably our schools as well. But I know here at the university, they've been focusing more on it. And it's also all the exercise and the getting outside and talking to the neighbors from a distance, of course, but you were walking around, you were checking out the neighborhood. So it became a kind of way to think outside the box. I saw people taking care, and all of you did too, probably neighbors and friends and things like that. And so now I think one of the things we can go back and look at is, what is the role of home economics in a lot of disasters, whether it's a natural one or whether it's a public health disaster? If you think of natural disasters being an extension, we are the first ones they call for a lot of things. We're the ones where you get food safety. Can I eat it? The power went out, the refrigerator, how long can it stay? You teach people those things. Mold, that's my area. So I get more mold calls, and this is Georgia too, so it's muggy. And mold is a common year-round issue. How do you clean up after a disaster? How do you clean up when the power goes out? What do you do with carbon monoxide and generators? And how do we rebuild? And what happens when it's a snowstorm? And I do a lot of posting for the Healthy Homes Partnership on our Facebook and Twitter pages. And especially we target areas when big storms, and you all just went through a big snow, I think, just recently. So I try to keep track of the weather to know what's going on so we can post major things. But what's big for you is, an ice dam might be something that you all deal with, and snow on your roof. We deal with frozen pipes because they don't insulate anything in the South. So when it gets, 30 degrees, everything freezes. So we can go back and look at what have we done, where have we been, and then capture all of that information, those lessons we've learned. What is it we were missing when that disaster happened? And that helps to build that resiliency. What did we not have that we needed? And I know in Extension, one of the things we always find that we don't have is resources in a form that people can use. And sometimes that's cable TV, little videos on how to clean up. It's not always a paper handout. Sometimes as we move to digital, it is a paper handout and not a digital thing because we don't have access to digital. So resiliency is looking back and how can we capture what we've learned to help us to become more resilient, and then to focus on the home as a safe space. As we saw in COVID, we were in our homes, maybe too much, but we saw the clutter. We started to clean it up, hopefully. And I heard that one of the presentations is on something about aging. And as you age and downsizing is what I think it was on, one of the presenters on the 19th, which is an area I've worked a lot with Mississippi on, is how do you right size your home for inheriting maybe all those Ours is right sizing, getting rid of sentimental clutter. How do you get people to get rid of sentimental clutter? And one of my favorite focuses is on death cleaning, the Swedish art of death cleaning, which is about downsizing before you die so that your family doesn't have to deal with it, which is, and as we sat in our homes, we looked around and we saw our homes weren't as safe as we thought because there was clutter everywhere. There were poisons where our kids could reach them. So, you know, and as home economists, one of our strengths is really to look at all those issues that people forget about in the home. And then they get escalated up to this, ooh, we need to talk about our environment. What's going on in our homes? Talk to your local home economist. They know a lot of that stuff. And the connecting is about bouncing back and rebuilding. And resiliency is not really how well you yourself do, but it's about you as a household, you as a family, you as a community. How do you recover together? If we focus too much on ourselves and our recovery, we've lost some of that resiliency that we need, because we really need to focus on a larger population. And if you think about expanding your definition of what you think of as family, you know, family isn't always blood family. Sometimes family is your neighbors, your coworkers, the students you teach. It can be a much broader term than just family. And it's always been one of my pet peeves in the years I was always single. I'm actually married, but my husband lives in Austria, so I'm still single essentially. But as you look at that, you think, well, family isn't just two people. Family could be a family of one, your dogs, your cats, your family can be your neighbors, your best friends. So think of it and broadening it. The people you work with, the students, your neighbors. Looking around, do you know your neighbors? So as we rebuild, we have to connect, or it doesn't really rebuild very well. And the inclusiveness is about not forgetting people who can't take care of themselves or have a difficult time taking care of themselves. There's always people who need they're a little bit more vulnerable to a disaster. And that disaster could be, thinking broadly, not just a natural disaster. It could be grief or loss of a family, or think of the families who lost their jobs during the pandemic. That was a pretty big disaster, and they may have fallen into that vulnerable area that they didn't have resources and they needed the resources. So it's that same idea of rebuilding collectively together and being inclusive and looking at what we as home economics professionals, family consumer sciences, what do we contribute to strengthen resiliency in people? You know, you can engage students. I do a lot of emergency planning stuff here in Georgia. And engaging students, they're the best. They are wonderful at getting their parents to do things that parents wouldn't normally do. Creating a plan, having hunts for things, finding energy leaks in the house. You know, there's tons of things that students will do. And then the parents become interested because the student's interested. Engaging them in financial management and education so that they start budgeting, so that their families might. I'm shocked all the time, and I don't know why, that people do not have wills and estate plans, retirement planning. They don't think about it. They think they're not going to die. And I hate to tell you, but we're all going to, we all know that. But we think that if we walk through the door of an attorney's office to work out a will or do it online, that means we're going to die. And I've actually had somebody tell me that. So it's like, okay. So getting the children, young children, getting older children involved really helps us to kind of plan ahead and become more resilient. Because like I said, to me, resiliency is broad, not just that natural disaster. That's the easiest one to talk about. But it could be just the loss of a job, the loss of a spouse, that loss might not be death, it might be divorce. So there's lots of different types of resiliency. So I have no idea how long I took because I forgot to time it, but I'm sure I'm okay still. But if you have any questions or ideas, what would you suggest for resiliency and encouraging. I think this is, home economics can really shine right now.
Pamela, this is Susan Shockey, and very excellent presentation, and I also enjoyed watching your video. So I'm glad you could share your thoughts with us today. As we move forward, is there a way, or do you have some published information that we can use these points that you have highlighted in your PowerPoint? I just think that really helps us have a plan and would help build resiliency.
Well, you know, I'm in extension, so we have publications. We always have publications. I'm our green cleaning person. So we have green cleaning, we have clutter stuff, we have mold. Yeah, I got tons of stuff like that that I'm free to share, and some presentations, PowerPoints and things if people want. So I can direct you. Once I finish, I'll type in the chat my website. Well, actually, it's just healthyhomes.uga.edu. I forgot about that. It's pretty easy. And that takes you to one. So we have lots of resources. And if I don't have them, a lot of times my colleagues in other states do. So I'm part of a national partnership on healthy homes. And so we create things related to indoor environment. And we've done several of us have done a lot of presentations on air cleaning and indoor environmental issues lately. I do a lot on radon. I run the radon program down here in Georgia. So we have those kinds of resources as well. It's a good question.
Thank you again. Very good.
And I think, let me see.
Yes. Thank you, Pamela. That was wonderful. And